So coming to the sexual reproduction in plants, if you remember, I have already told that sexual reproduction always happens in the higher group of organisms, like which are having a very complex body designs. Okay, so if you are saying in plants, angiosperms, okay, angiosperms group. Okay, angiosperm group organisms are highly developed, are highly complexed. Okay, so these are flower bearing plants. Fine, only in these organisms, in the higher group of plant organisms, this sexual reproduction will happen. Okay, so before going to this sexual reproduction in plants in detail, so you have to know a basic knowledge about sexual reproduction. Always remember that in sexual reproduction there will be a involvement of two organisms, correct, of two different sexes. One will be a female and another will be a male, right? And here very important thing is that both male and female organisms will produce gametes, correct? So gametes are what? They are the haploid cells, correct, which will be containing the half number of chromosomes. So when this male gamete and a female gamete, when it will combine, it will form a zygote. Okay, zygote is nothing but a single cell which is diploid, correct, which means it will be having a complete number of chromosomes, right, because it receives half from male, half from female, so together it will become a complete new individual, correct. So this zygote, upon going a mitotic divisions, wherein which 1 becomes 2, 2 becomes 4, 4 becomes 8 and 16, like that it goes on mitotic division and it will develop as a new individual. So this is what happens in a sexual reproduction. Okay, see, in case of humans or animals, if you consider, like how males will be having testes as their reproductive organs, or females how they'll be having a ovaries as a reproductive organ in order to produce gametes, right? Ovaries will produce female gamete and the testes will produce male gametes. Likewise, in plants also, they have got a sexual reproductive part, which is nothing but a beautiful part of it, which is a flower. Okay, so flower structure we will study in detail, so that we'll get to know which is a male part, which is a female part, okay, and how the reproduction or how a new plant will be produced because of the formation of a seed. Okay, so those all things we will study in detail now. Fine. Yes, so now let us discuss about different parts of a flower. So calyx, corolla, androecium and gynoecium. So these are all the 4 different parts of a flower. If all the 4 structures will be present in a flower, we call that as a complete flower. Okay, so now let us understand each and every part in detail. So calyx, what is calyx? Calyx is nothing but it's a whorl of sepals. Okay, so what is the meaning of whorl then? Whorl means it's an arrangement of certain structures. Okay, so if you see here, calyx is the outermost whorl of a flower, okay, where it has got a individual units as sepals. So sepals, you know, it is a green structure which is present at the basal part of a flower. So it mainly gives protection to the flower at its bud stage. Okay, when the flower in its bud stage, you must have seen, right, the bud will be protected, right, or covered with the help of this green color structure, which is nothing but a sepals. So calyx is basically a arrangement or a whorl of sepals. Okay, so next is corolla. So corolla is nothing but it's an inner whorl of petals. Okay, or it is a second whorl which is made up of petals. So the individual units of your corolla will be petals. You know, right, petals will be usually brightly colored, right, showy, large, because they have to attract the pollinators for the purpose of pollination. So that's why they'll be very large, bright, showy. Okay, so this is the second word, so, which is nothing but a corolla. So it is a what? Arrangement of petals. Correct. Many petals will be arranged in a circular form, usually, right, in many flowers in order to form a corolla. Fine. Yes. So next is androecium. So andro always refers to what? Male. Correct. And gyno always refers to what? Female, right? You might have heard gynecologist. Gyno means gynecologist. She is a specialized doctor for a woman or for a female, correct? So like that. So gyno always refers to female and andro always refers to male. Okay. So what is this androecium? Where it is present in a flower? Okay, I'll tell you. So androecium is another word which has got individual units of stamens. Okay, and these stamens are a male reproductive part. This is nothing but a stamen is the male reproductive part of a flower. Okay, so if you can see this, okay, this part where I have written with the help of some long elongated structure and then a lobe-like structure, this is nothing but a stamens. Okay, and then these stamens are again made up of a filament and anther, right? If you can see here, the filament and anther together, it is making a stamen, right? So this elongated structure is nothing but a filament, and a lobe-like structure which you can see over here like something like this is nothing but a anther. So this anther is a structure where it bears a pollen grains. Remember what? This anther will bears a pollen grains which in turn contains a male gametes inside it. So understood why I told stamen as a male reproductive part? Because stamen produces what? The pollen grains. The pollen grains in turn contains a male gametes. Right? So understood? So don't get confused that stamen is made up of anther and filament. Anther is a lobe-like structure within which it will bear a pollen grains, and in those pollen grains the male gametes will be present. Okay, and you might have seen, right, when you just touch a flower, the yellowish powdery color will stick into your hands. So that is nothing but a pollen grains. Okay, the matured pollen grains. So this is all about a male reproductive part which is a stamen. And stamen won't be like, alone or a single filament like this, right? It will be in group like this. So this whirl of stamens or this arrangement or this group of stamens in certain arrangement, you call that as androecium. The individual unit of this androecium will be your stamens, and many stamens will combine together to form the androecium. That's all. Okay. Remember, stamen is a male reproductive part which bears pollen grains inside anther which contains a male gametes. Clear? Yes. So now let us go to this gynoecium part. Okay. So this gynoecium is another word which has got individual units as pistils. Okay, if you can see, I have written here pistil, or it is also called as carpel. Okay, and this is made up of stigma, style and ovary, right? And if you can see here, this is how stigma, style and ovary looks like. Okay, it will be usually in the center. Okay, the complete female part. So stigma is something like a basal structure, okay, which is present on top, and this you can see, the style is an elongated structure which is connecting a stigma and ovary. Okay, and remember, stigma is a part where actually the pollen grains will be received by this female reproductive part. Okay, so I'll explain that part in detail going forward. Okay, yes, so this is about style which is connecting a stigma and ovary. Okay, and if you see ovary, ovary is a swollen basal part, okay, of this carpel, where it bears ovules inside it. Okay, these are nothing but ovules. Ovary bears ovules, okay, and inside each and every ovule there will be an embryo sac. Okay, and inside embryo sac there is a presence of your egg cell, which is nothing but a female gamete. Got it? So this ovary is a basal swollen part inside which there are ovules, and these ovules are attached to the ovary with the help of a special tissue called as placenta. Okay, with the help of placenta, the ovule gets attached to the walls of the ovary. Okay, and then this ovules, each and every ovules which are present inside the ovary will be having a embryo sac. Okay, inside embryo sac there is a presence of a egg cell, which is nothing but a female gamete. So you got to know that where male gametes are produced and where female gametes are produced, right? So in stamens, in anther, pollen grains are produced which bears a male gametes, and in this pistil, okay, in ovaries the ovules will be there, which will in turn will be having a female gametes inside it. Correct? So now the male gametes are present here and the female gametes are present here. Male gametes are at the top and the female gametes are at the bottom. So now how they will fuse and how a new individual or a new zygote will be formed, we'll understand now. Yes. Okay. So now let us understand about pollination. Okay, so I already told that your male gametes are at the top and your female gamete is at the bottom of a flower, right? So now they have to combine, right? Then only it can be, new organism can be produced. So how it can happen? It happens with the help of a pollination process. Fine. So what is this pollination? Pollination is transfer of pollen grains from an anther of a flower to the stigma of a flower, or a transfer of pollen grains from an anther of a stamen to a stigma of a pistil is called as pollination, right? Only then these pollen grains which have male gametes can reach a ovary or ovules which has got a female cell, then only their fusion can happen. Correct? So this is one process where it is aiding or favoring, right, the fusion of the male and female gametes, which is nothing but a pollination. And this pollination is of two types. One is called as self-pollination, another one is called as cross-pollination, right? So here the name only is indicating you self. Self always refers to what? Within, right? So self-pollination refers to a pollination when it happens within a same flower or within a same plant of different flowers. See, in some plants it happens that male flowers will be on top and female flowers will be at bottom. Okay, so don't get confused. Male flowers means they have got only stamens in them. Okay, and female flowers means they have got only female reproductive part, which is nothing but a pistil or a gynoecium in them. Okay, so these kind of flowers which have got only one type of reproductive part, either male or female, we call such flowers as unisexual flowers. So if a plant is bearing male flowers, you can call it as staminate flower also, or if a flowers are female, right, you can even call it as a pistillate flower. Okay, staminate flower means it has only stamens, and pistillate flower means it has only pistils, which is nothing but a female reproductive part. Okay, so here if you see what is happening, male flower will be producing pollen grains, right, in its anthers. So from its anthers it will fall on the stigma of a female flower. So then pollination will happen. Understood? So this is also, we call it as a self-pollination. And within the same plant, if a pollen grain is falling, okay, on top of a stigma of a same flower, we call it as a self-pollination. Okay, so this kind of flower where the male and female part are present in the same flower, we call it as a bisexual flower. So mostly what happens, most of the time this self-pollination happens in a bisexual flower, okay, and also in a unisexual flowers, correct? Here you can see, but both should be present on a same plant. For example, maize plants and all, right? What happens, all the male flowers will be present on top, right, and the female flowers will be present at the bottom. So when the wind blows very speedily, right, then the pollen grains of a male flower will fall on the stigma of the female flower. So then pollination will happen. Okay, like this we have got many agents like wind, insects, okay, water, they will favor this pollination. I'll come to that later. Okay, so now let us understand about cross pollination. So cross pollination, the name itself is telling cross, which means different, right? So cross pollination is a pollination in which transfer of pollen grains will happen between flowers of two different plants. Okay, for example, here you can see, if pollen grains from one plant are getting transferred from the anther of one plant to the stigma of another plant, then you call this as a cross pollination. Okay, so there is one plant which is bearing, or you can call this as a male plant, and this is a female plant. So what happens, this produces pollen grains which in turn has male gametes. So this will go and sit on top of your another flower, okay, which is a female flower. Okay, so then what happens, pollination will happen. So this kind of pollination you call it as a cross pollination. So mostly it happens in a unisexual flowers, which means they will be having either of the reproductive parts. Okay, and also it's not like that cross pollination will not happen in a bisexual flowers. It also happens in bisexual flowers, but most of the time cross pollination will happen in unisexual. Okay, because there is a necessity for it, right? Because it has only male flower, it cannot pollinate itself. That's why this cross pollination will happen. And self pollination, most of the time it happens in the bisexual flowers. It also happens in unisexual flowers, as you can see this as example, correct? Maize plant. Got it? So no doubt, right? Self pollination means same flower or flowers of the same plant. Okay, cross pollination means different plant, different flowers. Okay, got it, right? Those flowers should be born on different plants, but here in case of self pollination, two different flowers, but they should be born on the single plant. Okay, so this is all about the self pollination. As I already told you before, that there are different agents of this pollination. For example, in case of maize plant, wind was favoring, right? Wind was favoring this pollination. So that type of pollination we call it as a wind pollination. Okay, in some plants or in some flowers you might have seen honeybees or different insects, right? When they go in order to take the nectar, okay, that time they will be helping or they will be pollinating the flowers. So insects will also become an agent of pollination. Like that, water will also become an agent of pollination in the case of aquatic plants. Like this, there are many more agents which help in the process of this pollination. Got it? Yes. So these are the agents of pollination. Few I have written on board. You can see that if the pollination is happening because of wind, you call that as a anemophily. Example I already gave you, right? Maize, rice or corn. These are all examples for wind pollinators. Wind pollination. Okay, so next is if a pollination is happening because of water, you call that as a hydrophily. Example is hydrilla, which is an aquatic plant. And if a pollination is happening because of insects like honeybees or whatever, you call that as entomophily. Okay, examples you can take as papaya or many more you can give. And also you remember, if a pollination is happening because of wind, then it is not necessary that the flowers has to be very, the petals of a flower has to be very large, showy or bright in color. Okay, it's not necessary that these has to attract the insects, correct, for the purpose of pollination. As the wind itself is favoring the pollination, usually wind pollinating flowers will be very small in size, and they will bear pollen grains large in number. Okay, because in order to ensure a pollination will happen, they will be bearing the pollen grains in large quantity. And in case of insect pollinating flowers, what happens? Because see, these flowers has to attract the insects. Usually they will be bearing the nectar, and they will be the smelling very nicely, so they will produce nectar and odor. Okay, and also these usually the petals of insect pollinating flowers will be very bright, large, showy. Okay, so these are the few features of the insect pollinating flowers. Okay, so that's all about this agents of pollination. And agents of this pollination will be animals also, sometimes like elephants and all. You might have heard about Rafflesia flower, right? It's a very, it's an insectivorous plant also. It's a very big flower. So such kind of big flowers will be pollinated with the help of elephants also. Okay, so like this there are different agents of pollination. So mainly we have wind, water and insects, also animals. Okay, yes, so that's all about agents of pollination. So now let us discuss about the structure of male gamete and a structure of female gamete. Okay, in turn we'll discuss about the structure of pollen grain. Okay, so how it is bearing a male gametes and all, and also a structure of a ovum, so that we'll understand how these will meet and how fusion will happen. Okay, so now let us understand the structure of pollen grain and where the male gametes are present. Okay, and also a structure of a ovule and how the female gamete, like where it is present inside the embryo sac. Fine, so you can see this is how a pollen grain looks like. Okay, so the pollen grain has got two membranes. Okay, the outer membrane you call it as a exine, and the inner membrane you call it as a intine. Okay, and basically this intine, inside intine there will be two nucleus. One is called as a tube nucleus, another one is called as a generative nucleus. Okay, so this if you can see here, the intine region, okay, it starts coming out of the exine and it starts growing towards the ovule. Okay, so this is how the pollen tube starts growing. This is what you call it as a pollen tube. Okay, and if you can see here, the tube nucleus is like that only, but the generative nucleus has divided into two gametes. Okay, and these gametes are haploid in nature. Okay, so all you have to remember here is the pollen grain will basically bear two nucleus, in which one is called as a tube nucleus, another one is a generative nucleus. So generative nucleus will again divide to form a two male gametes. Okay, and upon reaching a stigma, it starts growing towards ovule with the help of a pollen tube. Okay, so this process only we call it as a pollen germination. Okay, so when pollination happens, pollen will start growing towards the ovule. Fine, so this we call it as a pollen germination. So a pollen grain contains two male gametes. Okay, so this is about a pollen grain structure. So now coming to a female part. Okay, so when this pollen germination happens, okay, I'll explain the fertilization process later. So now let us understand the structure of a ovule. So this is a one ovule structure, right? This is a ovary, and inside ovary you have a ovule, and I have drawn a enlarged diagram of that ovule itself. Okay, so inside ovule, okay, there is an embryo sac, inside which there will be a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cells. Okay, so this is a 7-celled structure where 2 synergids are at the bottom and 1 egg cell, which is a female gamete. Okay, 1 egg cell, which is a female gamete, is present just above or in between these synergids, okay, at the basal part of the embryo sac. And then in the center you have got 2 polar nuclei, and then at the top of this embryo sac you have got 3 antipodal cells. So you got the location of this female gamete, right? So this is where the egg cell, which is a female gamete, which is haploid in nature, is residing. Okay, so now let us understand how the male gametes which are present inside your pollen grain will reach out to your egg cell. Fine? Yes. So now let us understand how the fertilization will happen. Before that, we have to know what is the meaning of fertilization. So fertilization is the fusion of male and female gametes. Okay, so when male and female gametes will combine, then a new zygote or a new individual will be formed, right? So that process of fusion of male and female gametes, okay, the fusion of male and female gametes is called as what? Fertilization. Okay, so now let us understand how this will happen in plants. Okay, so as I already told that the pollen grain, upon reaching the stigma, it starts germinating towards the ovule, right? It is carrying 2 male gametes. Now these 2 male gametes will reach the ovule, okay, and which also reaches the embryo sac through this micropylar end. Okay, and I already explained you the structure of embryo sac, correct? So with the help of this pollen tube, these male gametes will be able to reach the egg cell. Okay, so when one male gamete, remember there are 2 male gametes, correct? So when one male gamete, when it combines with the egg cell, okay, so it forms a zygote. You already know male gamete is haploid in nature, right, which has half number of chromosomes, and egg cell is also haploid in nature. So when haploid and haploid will combine, it forms a diploid zygote, okay, which has got 2 sets of chromosomes. So this zygote will go on mitotic division to form a embryo. Okay, and this embryo will only grow into a new plant when you sow a seed in a soil. Okay, yes, so this process of fusion of male gamete with the egg cell is called as a syngamy. Okay, so if you see here, the first fertilization has happened here, right? The male and female gamete has combined together to form a zygote, right? And now if you remember, there are 2 male gametes, right? One combined with egg cell, but what will happen to another one? The another male gamete will combine with your center polar nuclei. Okay, see, another male gamete will combine with the polar nuclei to form a endosperm. Okay, so you knew male gamete is a haploid in nature, but here how many nucleus are there? 2, right? So it is diploid. So haploid and diploid, when it combines, it form a triploid, like n plus 2n will give rise to 3n, which is triploid in nature, which is nothing but the endosperm. And this endosperm, it forms a nutritive media for a growing embryo. Okay, so this process of a fusion of one male gamete with a polar nuclei, you call it as a triple fusion, okay, which leads to the formation of the endosperm. Okay, yes, so as the process or the act of fertilization is happening 2 times in the flowering plants, you call this fertilization as double fertilization, because if you can see, first fertilization has happened here and here is the second fertilization, correct? One male gamete with the egg cell and another male gamete with the polar nuclei. So fertilization is happening 2 times, thus this is called as a double fertilization and triple fusion, because what is happening? Triploid nucleus is formed, hence you can call this as a triple fusion. Fine, yes. So the sexual reproduction in plants can be termed as double fertilization and triple fusion. Okay, so now after fertilization or post fertilization, what happens to these structures? Okay, see, your ovule will become seed, the ovary will become fruit. Okay, so whatever the coats of ovule was there, okay, so called integuments, right, that will become as seed coats. Okay, so these are the fate of parts of a flower post fertilization. Okay, I'll just write it down, clearing all these things. 1 second. Yes, so this is what happens to the parts of a flower, okay, post fertilization, that the integuments are nothing but the covering of a ovule, right? The outer part of a ovule will become a seed coats, okay, and then ovule will become seed, okay, ovule itself, inside ovule only embryo and endosperm were formed, right? See, inside ovule there was an embryo sac inside which your zygote and endosperm got formed because of fertilization, because of double fertilization, correct? So these embryo and endosperms will remain within the seed, okay, and then ovary will become fruit and sepals and petals will fall off in most of the flowers. Okay, so this is the fate of the the flower parts post fertilization. So next, when you sow this seed in a soil, what happens? Okay, it starts germinating, right? After a dormant period of a seed, the embryo, okay, inside a seed the embryo inside a the embryo inside a seed will start developing as a new plantlet, right? So this process only you call it as what? Germination. Okay, so what is germination? The process in which a new plantlet will be grown from a embryo of a seed is called as a germination. Okay, so that's all about this sexual reproduction in plants. I hope you have understood the concepts. So now let us move on to the next topic, which is sexual reproduction in human beings.